The wind whispered through the pine trees with a hush that felt rehearsed, like the forest had been holding its breath for centuries. The van pulled up at the edge of an overgrown trailhead, gravel crunching under the tires. 4 figures stepped out, each one carrying gear, but none of them ready for what they were about to uncover. Kira Logan, the lead producer and documentarian, squinted up at the gray sky. She'd been here before, 12 years ago, when she was a grad student filming her first project on folk horror myths. She remembered the name, Lake Valmer, but even now it felt wrong in her mouth, like the words didn't belong to her. "We're losing light," James muttered, pulling his camera case from the back. "We need to start scouting." James Holt, her longtime cameraman and ex-boyfriend, hadn't wanted to come, but money talked louder than instinct. His breath fogged as he stared into the woods. Allison Vale, the project's executive producer, was the youngest and the most skeptical. She chewed gum aggressively and tapped through her phone despite the fading signal. "You're sure this place hasn't already been covered to death?" she asked. "Missing hikers, creepy lake, yawn." Kira shook her head. "No one's done it right. They talk about the disappearances, but they miss the real story." "Which is what?" Allison snapped. Kira turned toward the trees. "That something comes back, but not the person who went in." A pause, then a slow chuckle from Danny Ridge, their audio tech. He had a boom mic slung over his shoulder and a flask half hidden in his vest. "Cursed lake stories. Classic," he grinned. "I've got EVP recorders. Let's see if it hums." None of them noticed the strange silence beneath their footsteps. No birds, no wind, and when they shouted to test the acoustics, no echo. The lake revealed itself like a secret reluctantly told. At the end of the trail, past a curtain of black pine and alder trees, the trees parted into a clearing. There it sat, Lake Valmer. A glassy, circular body of water so still it looked like polished stone. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the surface. But the water didn't reflect the sky. It reflected nothing. Not the trees, not their faces. Just a blank, colorless void. "This doesn't look natural," James muttered, adjusting his lens. Kira stepped closer to the shoreline, careful not to get too close. The air was heavy here, not cold, but dense. She had the strangest sensation that the lake wasn't still. It was waiting. Danny unpacked his gear, placing small, sensitive microphones on the ground and near the water's edge. "EVP recorders live," he said. "If there's any audio interference, we'll catch it." "From fish?" Allison mocked. "Or from something that doesn't want us here," Danny replied, half joking, half not. James held up the camera. The lens focused, then unfocused. Focused again. He frowned. "That's weird. Autofocus is glitching like the water's scrambling the signal." Suddenly, a ripple broke the surface of the lake. But nothing had touched it. No bird, no branch, no wind. The ripple moved outward in a slow circle, as if something just below had exhaled. Allison was the first to move back. "Okay, seriously, this place is giving me that Blair Witch feeling, and I haven't even seen a stick figure yet." "You scared?" Danny teased. "No," she said, But I'm not filming a horror cliché either. Let's get the intro shots and be done. Kira turned to the camera, mic'd up and composed. We're standing on the shores of Lake Valmer, a site with no official documentation in modern databases, only stories passed through generations. Locals say people disappear here, not because they drown, but because they're taken. Behind her, the lake made a sound, a wet click, not from a fish, not from a bird, like a throat clearing. Everyone froze. "Did you hear that?" Kira whispered. Danny checked his monitor. "We caught it. Definitely not wildlife." James looked at the lake, then at his own reflection, except he had none. James staggered back a step. He leaned over again, staring into the glassy surface of Lake Valmer. The reflection showed the trees, the overcast sky, even the camera in his hands. But not him. No silhouette. No face. Nothing. "Guys," he said, voice low. "Come here. Now." Kira rushed to his side, then froze. Her own reflection shimmered in the water, but only faintly. Like the lake was deciding whether to show her back or not. "Okay, what the hell is this?" Allison asked, looking over their shoulders. "Is this a trick? You edited this somehow?" "We're looking at real-time water," James snapped. "I'm not even filming right now." Danny, standing further back with the audio monitor, lifted his headphones off. "I'm getting whispering." "From who?" Kira asked. "From the lake." He unplugged one of the mini speakers and turned the volume up. A chorus of voices emerged, layered, slow, echoing. Not language exactly, but almost. "Help, taken, beneath, he wore my skin, don't look too long." Allison turned pale. Nope, no amount of footage is worth this. I'm going back to the van." She started walking, fast, through the trees. "Wait!" Kira called, but it was too late. The others stood in silence as her footsteps crunched away into the woods. Then, 30 seconds later, they heard her scream. Blood-curdling, choked off, followed by silence. James grabbed the camera and bolted after her. Kira and Danny followed, crashing through underbrush and branches until they reached the trailhead. There was no one there. The van door was open. One shoe lay in the mud. And next to it, a wet footprint. But not Allison's. It was facing the wrong direction, toes pointing back toward the lake. Kira stood frozen, eyes locked on the single footprint in the mud. It wasn't just the direction, it was the shape. The toes were long, too long. The arch too deep, the heel distorted. It looked human at a glance, but no person Kira had ever known walked on feet like that. "Where the hell is she?" James muttered, filming the area in sweeping arcs. "She wouldn't just run into the woods." Danny knelt by the print, examining the soft soil. "It's not fresh," he said. Kira turned to him. "What do you mean?" "It's already drying, like it's been here for hours." "But she screamed less than a minute ago." Danny looked up slowly, something unreadable in his expression. "I think that scream came after this was made." They searched for an hour. No trail, no sign of Allison, no blood, no drag marks, not even broken branches. It was like she had stepped into a fold in the world and vanished. Eventually, they returned to the lake, all three, silent. The water hadn't moved, still smooth, still blank. But now, there were ripples at the far end, subtle but rhythmic. Like breathing, or waiting. "We're not alone," Danny whispered. That night, they made camp 100 feet from the shoreline, reluctant to go further, but too afraid to stay closer. The fire cracked and spit sparks into the black. Kira lay in her sleeping bag, unable to sleep. And then she heard it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Slow footsteps just beyond the firelight. "Danny?" she whispered. "James?" No answer. She sat up. Both men were still zipped into their bags, dead asleep. The footsteps circled the camp, soft and wet, then stopped. She reached for the flashlight. Click! A figure stood just outside the ring of trees. The beam caught only its outline, tall, slightly hunched, head tilted too far to one side. Kira didn't breathe. The figure lifted one hand slowly and pointed directly at her. Then it whispered, "You're next." Kira's heart thudded in her chest like it was trying to escape. The flashlight beam trembled in her grip, the circle of light barely catching the outline of the thing beyond the trees. It didn't move. It didn't blink. It just stood there, pointing, its elongated fingers like twigs swollen with water. "James! Danny! Wake up!" she whispered urgently. No response. The fire had burned low, casting shadows like writhing hands around the camp. Kira turned to shake Danny, but when she looked back, the figure was gone. Only the echo of its words remained in her head. "You're next." She didn't sleep the rest of the night. By dawn, both James and Danny stirred, stretching and rubbing the cold from their joints. Neither had heard a thing. Danny swore the audio recorders had gone dead after 3:11 a.m. No data, like something had swallowed the sound itself. "This place is a black hole," he muttered. "Even the gear doesn't want to work." "Something came last night," Kira said. "I saw it. It spoke to me." James looked at her, concerned. "Spoke to you how?" "It said my name." They both stared. "Did you tell anyone your name when we got here?" Danny asked slowly. "No." "Because I heard something on playback," he added, flipping open his recorder. "I didn't want to freak you out before, but now, listen." He played a clip. The static cleared. A faint sound emerged, a wet whisper like someone drowning while trying to speak. "Kira, come down. She's waiting." She shivered. "She who?" "I don't know, but it used your voice, a distorted version of it." James began packing his camera. "We need to leave. Now, screw the dock, screw the footage. Allison's gone and this place isn't normal." They turned back toward the trail. The van was still there, but the doors? Open. And written across the windshield, smeared in some dark, sticky substance, were 5 words. "You are already inside her." James froze, camera hanging limp in his hand. Kira stepped forward slowly, heart hammering. The words, smeared on the windshield, glistened in the morning light. The substance looked like blood, but darker, thicker, almost like sap. Danny leaned in cautiously. "That's not paint," Not mud either. He touched a gloved finger to the writing and sniffed, his face twisted in disgust. It smells like rot, like something dead inside a tree. James opened the van door. The seats were soaked. Something had seeped in overnight. The smell hit them all at once. Wet wood, decay, old breath. "What does it mean?" Kira asked quietly. "What's inside her?" Danny didn't answer. Instead, he turned back to the trail, toward the lake. "I don't think this place is just haunted," he said. "I think it's a body." Kira blinked. "What are you talking about?" "It's like we're not camping near the lake. We're inside something, some thing, bigger, living, breathing, absorbing." A soft rustle in the trees made them all spin. Branches moved where none should have. The wind had gone still again. Then James hissed, "Did you see that?" Across the clearing, someone stood among the trees, someone familiar. Kira squinted. The woman's posture was off, stiff, strange, but her clothing was unmistakable. "Allison?" Kira breathed. She took a step forward, hand lifting instinctively. "Allison?" she called. The figure slowly turned. It was her face, but wrong. Too smooth, like it had been molded, not born. The eyes were glassy, too large. The smile, plastic. And when it spoke, the voice echoed strangely, like it came from the bottom of a well. "You came to watch," it said. "Now she watches you." Then it took a step forward, and its neck cracked sideways, the head lolling at an impossible angle. James lifted his camera and hit record. The thing took another step. Its joints snapped with each movement like something learning to walk for the first time. Kira backed away. "That's not Allison. That's—" The imposter opened its mouth wider than humanly possible. From deep inside came a sound. Not a growl, not a scream. A gurgle, like something surfacing. The sound of a lake trying to speak. The sound was wet. Like breath filtered through water, or lungs full of sludge. It rolled from the thing wearing Allison's face with a pressure that vibrated the ground beneath their feet. James stumbled backward, nearly dropping the camera. "It's mimicking her," he said. "That's not her voice, it's an impression." Danny raised the boom mic like it could shield him. The creature, if it could still be called that, stood still now, arms slack at its sides, as if it had played its part. Then its jaw slowly began to close again. The skin along its cheeks stretched, creased, tore slightly. No blood. It wasn't alive. It was wearing her. "Run!" Kira shouted. The three bolted back toward the lakeside, away from the van, from the thing, from the words smeared in blood. Behind them, the imitation moved, not walking, gliding, just above the surface of the forest floor, like it didn't obey the same physics. They didn't stop until the lake was in sight again, but something was wrong. The shoreline had changed. Where the path had once been solid, there was now soft gray silt, bubbling faintly in places. The trees around the perimeter leaned forward, as if drawn toward the water, or pushed by it. "We can't go back," Danny said, panting. "It knows where we are. It showed us her." James turned slowly in a circle. "Then where do we go?" Kira stared out at the lake. The ripples were gone. Now the surface was flat again, perfectly smooth. But in the center of the lake, something had surfaced. A structure. Stone. Round. Cracked by time and water. covered in black moss. "Was that there before?" James asked. Kira shook her head. "No, it's calling us now." Danny looked pale. "That's not a ruin, that's not a temple, that's a mouth." The ripples began again, this time pulling inward like a slow breath, and then across the lake, dozens of small figures emerged from the trees, human in size, but not human in movement. Some of them still wore the clothes of the missing. Some looked like each other. Each face was too smooth, each body stiff and wrong, and every single one of them had eyes like mirrors, reflecting Kira, reflecting Danny, reflecting James, but nothing else, just them, over and over and over. The figures stood perfectly still on the far edge of the lake, lining the tree line like silent mourners at a funeral. No one spoke. The wind had died. Not a single bird called. And in that absolute stifling silence, the copies watched them. Dozens of them, each a mirror made flesh. James whispered, "Those faces, they're ours." He was right. A few of the figures bore their own likenesses, his, Danny's, and Kira's, worn like suits, unmoving masks twisted subtly as if still learning how to wear expressions. "Why are there so many?" Kira asked, voice shaking. "They're not just us," Danny replied. "They're all the people who ever disappeared here." The creatures didn't move, didn't even blink, but one stepped forward slightly, just enough for Kira to catch a detail that made her insides twist. Its face had two sets of eyes. One pair open, one pair stitched shut. "We need to get off the shore," James said. "They're waiting for something. I don't want to find out what." They backed away from the lake and turned into the woods, moving quickly but not too fast, not enough to trigger pursuit. "What is this place?" Kira whispered. "This isn't just haunted. This is possessed." "No," Danny said grimly. "This place is the ghost." Suddenly the forest around them changed. Trees that weren't there before now towered overhead. The trail they had walked a dozen times vanished. The sky dimmed, not from clouds, but from something closing above, like a lid sliding over a box. "We're not in the woods anymore," James muttered. "We're inside the lake. Inside her." Kira stopped walking. In the dirt beneath her boots, something pulsed, once, twice, a deep thud, like a heartbeat. Then she heard her name again. "Kira, please, come see." She turned slowly. Allison stood behind them again. Only this time she was crying. The tears were real. Her mouth trembled. "It's not just skin," she whispered. "It's conscious. It knows everything, every thought, every fear." Kira stared in horror. "Is it you?" The woman shook her head. "No, I'm just the part of her that remembers your friend." Then her smile returned, wide, too wide. "But I can be more, if you let me in." Kira backed away, her boots slipping in the mossy undergrowth. "You're not Allison," she whispered. The imitation tilted its head, the movement stuttering, like a puppet on loose strings. "I could be," it said. "I remember her laugh, the smell of her shampoo, the moment she fell into the black." Its voice wasn't quite right anymore. It wavered between tones, like it couldn't settle on which version of Allison to be. Its features flickered in small, disturbing ways, her left eye sinking slightly, her hair curling where it had once been straight. James whispered, "Don't talk to it. It's trying to latch on." Danny lifted the boom mic like a weapon again, but his hands were trembling now. "It's not mimicking," he said. "It's inhabiting. It's a living echo." The fake Allison stepped forward, bare feet squelching into the moss. "I know what's beneath," it cooed. "You're walking in her veins, breathing her air. You didn't find her. She grew around you." Suddenly the trees bent inward, literally bent, groaning as if the forest were closing in, branches clawing at the sky. A low moan rolled through the ground beneath their feet, not wind, not distant thunder, a voice. One so old and deep, it didn't come from lungs, but roots. "Do you see me now?" The air shimmered. The trees around them flickered, just for a second. The illusion peeled away and Kira saw it, the truth. They weren't in a forest at all. The trees were rib bones, the moss, coagulated tissue, the path, a pulsing artery winding toward a heart they hadn't yet reached. The lake wasn't a body of water, it was an eye, and it had finally opened. Kira screamed and dropped to her knees. James turned in a circle, camera whirling. "We're not in nature, we're in a thing." Danny stumbled back. "We're in her memory, James, and she's trying to digest us." The ground was breathing. Slow, deep, and wet. Each inhalation lifting the mossy floor ever so slightly before it sank again. Kira could feel it through her knees. Rhythmic, alive. James whispered, "We have to move before it pulls us under." But the world wasn't the same anymore. The woods had reshaped themselves, no longer random, no longer real. The trees stood in a perfect spiral now, narrowing inward like a tunnel, a birth canal made of bark and bone, and it led straight toward the lake. "It wants us to see something," Danny muttered, adjusting the mic, though it picked up nothing but static now. "It's showing us its insides." Kira rose shakily. "It's not just showing us, it's testing us, learning what we'll do when we understand." The Allison thing had vanished again, or perhaps it had rejoined the entity that wore it. And up ahead, a sound emerged. Not a scream, not a cry, a heartbeat, massive, wet, too slow to be human. Thump, thump. They followed the spiral path, though every instinct screamed to run the other way. There was nowhere else to go. The forest would simply close again behind them. It was a trap made of memory and flesh. Soon they arrived at a clearing. But it wasn't empty. Beneath the roots of a massive rotting tree, which now looked suspiciously like a spine, there was a pit. A yawning hole, circular and black, lined with teeth made of stone and bone and broken glass. And at its center, a pulsing mass, red and slick, suspended by tendrils like veins. It beat slowly, twitching between each throb. A heart, larger than a house, alive. "This is it," James said hoarsely, camera shaking. "The core. The thing," Danny added, "that used to be human, or was made from humans." Kira stepped closer to the edge, and something inside the pit opened its eyes. Yes, eyes, plural, many, all of them milky and wet, like newborn fish, blinking in different directions. And in every one, she saw herself, not as she was, but as it saw her, as food, as offspring, as a part of something greater. They didn't speak for a long time. just stood at the edge of the forest watching the lake lie still under the pale morning sky. The wind returned, gentle, cold. Birds chirped again. The air smelled like pine needles and dew, not flesh, not rot. It felt normal, too normal. "Is it really over?" James asked, clutching the camera like a relic. "Did we kill it?" Danny sat down on the gravel staring at the water. "I don't know if we killed it," he said, "but it let us go." Kira didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the reflection in the lake, 3 figures, her, James, Danny. But her reflection didn't blink when she did, and the smile it wore was just a little too still. She turned away, heart pounding. "Let's just go." They found the van still parked where they'd left it. The windshield was clear now, no words, no blood. The inside dry and clean, as if nothing had ever happened, as if the thing in the forest had simply dreamed them. They drove in silence. No one turned the radio on. No one looked back. 2 weeks later. The footage James uploaded went viral. Thousands of comments poured in. "Best horror ARG I've seen. This has to be fake, right? That woman's face at 1:14, WTF? Are we sure they're acting?" But not everyone thought it was a hoax. A few older comments, downvoted and buried, spoke in whispers. "I grew up near Velmer Lake. My uncle disappeared in '98. I saw my brother's face in that clip and he died 10 years ago. If you dream of water now, don't drink it." One night, Kira scrolled through the footage alone. She paused at the frame where Allison's double stared into the lens, eyes like liquid glass. She zoomed in. In the reflection of the left pupil, she saw something. Not the forest, not James, but herself. Floating in the lake, eyes open, mouth smiling. "James," she whispered into the phone, "are you awake? I think part of us never left." The call disconnected. Kira stared at her laptop. The screen glitched just once, a flicker. Then her camera light turned on by itself. Kira slammed the laptop shut, heart pounding. The little green camera light clicked off instantly. Silence flooded the room. She stood up, pacing, whispering to herself, it's not real, we left. Her apartment windows were closed, the curtains drawn. Still, the faint scent of algae clung to the air, damp and metallic, like a lake bed left too long in the sun. She walked to the bathroom, flicked on the light, and leaned toward the mirror. Nothing strange. Her eyes were her own, brown, wide, still trembling, but something made her hesitate. She leaned closer and closer. Behind her, reflected only in the glass, stood Allison, dripping, pale, smiling that slow, crooked smile. Kira spun, knife drawn from her pocket, nothing there. She was alone. Only the faucet dripping, once, twice. She gripped the edge of the sink and lowered her head. This is trauma, just trauma. Then the faucet twisted on its own. Water poured out, but it was black, thick, ink-like liquid that writhed as it flowed. Tiny whispers escaped from it, too quiet to understand. Kira backed out of the bathroom and shut the door hard. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from James. Don't watch the footage anymore. Something's in the files. Another buzz, this one from Danny. Have you had any dreams of the lake? I woke up wet. She called James. No answer. The second time, he picked up, breathing hard. "It's in the edits, Kira." I slowed the frame down. "You know that part where Allison speaks backwards?" "Yeah?" I reversed it. "She's not saying a name. She's saying, 'Let me in.'" A silence. Then static. Then James said, "I think I already did." The line went dead. Kira stood frozen, phone still against her ear, as the dripping resumed from behind the bathroom door. But now it wasn't just the sink. It was something moving inside the pipes. A gurgling laugh. She looked down. Black water began to seep from under the bathroom door. It moved toward her in slow, deliberate tendrils, like it remembered. Kira backed away from the creeping black water. It moved unnaturally, not pooling, but crawling, as if it had a purpose, as if it could see. She grabbed her coat, keys, and backpack. No time to pack properly, no time to think. She didn't even lock the door behind her. In the hallway, the lights flickered, once, twice, then total darkness. Her phone's flashlight flicked on. The white beam trembled in her unsteady grip. As she moved toward the stairwell, her footsteps echoed louder than they should have. They repeated wrong. Each step duplicated an instant late, like a playback glitch. On the landing below, she saw something. A puddle of water, but no plumbing nearby. Her flashlight passed over it, and the water shimmered. Inside it, she saw James' face. "Kira," he said from inside the reflection, mouth moving but no breath. "It's okay. The water remembers us now." She staggered back. "You're not real." "Neither are you." She blinked, and the puddle was just water. Normal, still. But her boots were wet now. Elsewhere. James sat alone in his apartment. Screens surrounded him. Frames from their footage paused at precise timestamps. His face was pale, washed out by monitor light. One clip looped endlessly. The moment Kira first saw Allison on the lake. Rewind, play. Rewind, play. In each loop, he noticed something new. The reflection in the lake didn't match what the camera recorded. In the reflection, the trees were rotting. Kira was crying blood, and Allison was smiling with his mouth. He spoke into a recorder. "It's not a place, it's a signal. A memory that broadcasts itself through sound, through image, through us." James reached for his glass of water, but the water was no longer still. It was rising, slowly, curling upward against gravity. A face began to form in it, his own, mouth open wide. He didn't scream, he just turned the camera toward it and hit record. Back to Kira. She got into her car, slammed the door, locked it, but her side mirror was wrong. She wasn't sitting alone. Her reflection smiled calmly at her from the passenger seat. "The lake is dry now," it whispered, "but you still drink from it." Kira slammed the car into drive and tore down the road. The reflection in the passenger seat didn't move, didn't blink. It only watched her, a half-formed version of herself, skin water-slicked and eyes too wide, as if she were wearing her own skin wrong. "You can't outrun a signal," the reflection said. Kira turned her head. No one in the seat. She swerved, tires shrieking, barely staying on the road. Heart hammering, she floored it toward the edge of town, toward anything dry. She found a dusty motel 30 miles out, surrounded by brittle grass and power lines. Desert air. No lakes, no forests, no sound but cicadas screaming. Inside the room, she turned off every light, every faucet, even stuffed a towel under the bathroom door. She curled onto the bed, trembling. Her phone buzzed again. James had sent another video. It was just his face, close up. He looked exhausted, wet. "Kira," he whispered. "It's not just us. I uploaded the edit. Hundreds of people have seen it. I thought I could bury it in compression, hide it in frame blending. But it doesn't need the lake anymore." He leaned closer, his face blurring. "It rides on light now. Sound, pattern. Anyone who watches long enough starts dreaming." The screen flickered. Behind him, a reflection in the darkened window smiled wide. Not James. Something else. "Turn off your screen," James said. "Don't answer the whispers." The video ended, then restarted on its own. Then again, and again. Each time, his face distorted more. Kira dropped the phone into the motel's mini-fridge and slammed the door. But the sound kept playing. From inside the tiny vent in the wall, from the bathroom's drain, from the mirror fogged despite no heat. "Let me in, let me in, let me in." The words dripped like condensation. She grabbed a notepad from the bedside table, flipped it open, and began to write. Something she hadn't done in years. If the light, sound, and footage carried the infection, then maybe writing could trap it, shape it, contain it. But as she wrote the first sentence, "It started beneath the lake," she paused. There, beneath her pen's first line, was another sentence already written. "You came from me. You'll return to me." She hadn't written that. She didn't remember writing that. And the ink was still wet. Kira stared at the page. The ink shimmered, not black, but an iridescent green black, like oil slick on water. She touched it, warm. It soaked into her fingertip, and for a split second, she saw the lake again. But she wasn't above it, or on its edge. She was underneath, the surface far above, warped by light and blood. Around her, shapes drifted, faces she recognized but twisted, eyes open, mouths smiling. Danny, Allison, James, herself. The voice whispered in her mind, "We do not drown here. We dream forward. We remember in others." She yanked her hand away from the page, heart pounding. The ink on her skin remained, curling, moving of its own accord. A symbol now spiraling inward like an eye. She rushed to the sink to wash it off, but no water came. Just a hollow gurgle, then whispers. She turned, and on the mirror, words were scrawled in the same black-green ink. "You carried me out with you." Suddenly the room trembled. The sound wasn't an earthquake, it was a heartbeat. Deep. Echoing through the walls, the bed, the pipes. Boom, 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 boom. Her phone, still inside the fridge, vibrated violently. The sound grew louder. She opened the fridge and pulled the phone out. The screen was cracked, but still glowing. New message from unknown contact. Where do dreams go when they wake up? She dropped the phone. Outside the motel room, the cicadas had gone silent. Kira approached the window and pulled the curtain aside. Across the parking lot, beneath a flickering street lamp, stood a copy of her. It didn't move, it didn't blink, but it stared straight at her and slowly, deliberately, raised a hand and pointed at her chest. Kira looked down. The ink symbol on her skin had bloomed wider, spreading toward her wrist like roots in search of soil. The motel lights blew out, the hum in the walls stopped, and the sound of dripping resumed, louder now, from inside the walls, from under the bed. She turned to leave, but her reflection was already standing in the doorway.
The figure in the doorway wore her face, but it wasn't her. It stood too still, like it was remembering how to be human. The smile didn't match the eyes. They were cold, still, like something that had looked through her skin and decided to wear it. Kira froze. "You're not real." The double tilted its head. Water dripped from its hair onto the motel carpet. "I'm what you left behind," it said, voice soft and warbled, "and I'm tired of being alone." Kira lunged for the bathroom. Door slammed, locked. She backed against the tub, searching frantically for a weapon, anything. Then she remembered the notebook. She grabbed it from the bed before running, and now opened it again. More lines had appeared. They weren't hers, they were in the voice. "You can't escape a story once it's begun. You gave me shape. Now give me breath." The notebook pulsed, literally pulsed, like a heart, warm in her hands. The ink moved, forming more words. "Say my name and I'll stop whispering." Kira gritted her teeth. "I don't know your name." From the door came a soft knock. Once, twice, then the voice, her own, from the other side. "You do. You saw it in the water." The mirror over the sink fogged despite the cool air. A word etched itself into the misted glass. Nyrah. Something in her blood recoiled at the sight of it. She had seen it long ago, deep in a dream she thought was forgotten. A dream of drowning, of something pressing its face to hers in the dark. The notebook opened itself, pages fluttering violently, all blank, until the last page where something had been drawn. A crude shape. A circle made of bones. A black lake at its center. And in the middle of that lake, a small raft with a girl curled upon it, asleep. "You floated too far," the page read. "Now everything floats to you." The knock came again, louder this time. "Kira," the reflection's voice cooed. "You're writing me into the world. You're doing so well." The doorknob turned, slow and patient, and from the drain, something laughed. The doorknob rattled again, this time more urgently. The thing outside was growing impatient. Inside the bathroom, Kira's fingers trembled on the notebook. She flipped to the page with the word Nyrah. It pulsed on the paper, the letters curling as if reacting to her gaze. From the sink drain, the black water began to rise again. Not flow, but rise, spiraling up like it was being pulled by an invisible thread. It formed a tendril, thin and slick, reaching toward the notebook in her hand. She backed away. Her foot struck the side of the tub. She lost balance and fell, hard. The notebook skidding across the tiles. The door creaked. A voice, hers but not, slithered into the room. "Say it." Kira gasped, watching the tendril uncoil toward her face. "Say my name, and I'll take the memories. I'll keep them safe. I'll keep you safe." She shook her head violently. "You're not me." "I'm better," the voice whispered. "I'm everything you couldn't say. I remember the silence. I remember the screams." The black water reached her wrist. It touched the ink mark, and the sigil flared. Pain seared through her arm, not burning, but cold, like ice, poured down her veins. She bit back a scream. The notebook flipped open on its own. A new page scrawled itself with a single command: drown the reflection. She stared at it, then toward the mirror. The reflection was gone. But in the doorway, Nyrah stood fully formed now. Her face was Kira's, but older, wetter. Her skin shone like something pulled from a well and forgotten. Nyrah stepped into the room. The lights buzzed violently. The drain gurgled like it was choking on breath. Kira grabbed the shower rod, yanked it free. The metal squealed. She held it between them like a sword. Nyrah smiled. Brave little scribe. Then her smile faded. Her voice dropped an octave. You brought me back. Now bring me through. Kira screamed and swung. The rod passed through Nyrah, but the air shattered like glass. The room folded inward. Water poured from the ceiling, the vents, even the light sockets, and Kira was falling, not into the tub, but into the lake again. Only this time she knew. It wasn't a memory. She had never truly left.
Kira plunged into darkness. But this time, the lake wasn't just cold. It was aware. It wrapped around her like a womb, thick and humming with memory. The pressure wasn't just physical. It was emotional, psychic. As if every moment she had tried to forget now pressed against her chest, like a weight. She opened her eyes underwater. Shapes swam around her. People. Moments. Her father's hand leaving hers on the edge of a hospital bed. Allison's last scream. James smiling at the footage before he disappeared into silence. Her own reflection, blinking just a beat too late in the mirror. Each floated by her like dying fireflies, glowing softly in the black. Each reached out, wanting to be remembered. Then she saw it. At the center of the lake, a place without depth, but not empty. It pulsed like a heart, made of water and sorrow and sound. Nyrah. She stood there, not swimming, not floating, anchored to the lakebed by dozens of ink-like tendrils. The sigil on Kira's arm burned again, reacting. You came back, Nyrah said without speaking. Her voice filled the water. You remembered me. Kira kicked backward, but there was no escape. The lake pressed her in place. A memory trap. A loop. Why me? Kira choked, the words somehow audible. Why us? Nyrah's face flickered, from Kira's own to something older, faceless, just eyes and a mouth full of silence. Because you watched, she said. Because you listened. The lake doesn't drown, it records. And now you are part of its voice. From above, dozens of echoes bled into the water. Children's laughter, screams, camera shutters, static. A screen appeared, hovering in the black. Her footage. The first clip. The one where Allison turned and looked past the camera, where her smile died. Now, in the replay, Kira saw it. In the far corner of the frame, just for a second, Nyrah's face, watching from beneath the water. You uploaded me, Nyrah said. Now I'm in them too. The surface above rippled. Kira saw flashes of other people, viewers, strangers, thousands of them. They were watching. They were listening. They were starting to dream. The surface churned with ghost light.
Reflections of screens shimmered above her like constellations, glowing rectangles showing her face, her footage, her voice. All of them watching. Kira stared in horror. Every new ripple brought more images. Bedrooms, phones, glowing monitors in dark college dorms, tablets clutched under blankets. They were all watching her story. And through it, they were watching Nyrah. "I told you," Nyrah said, drifting closer. "I don't need a lake anymore. I have signal. I have screen." The water around Kira vibrated with a hum, low at first, then growing. It wasn't sound anymore. It was a feeling, a pressure in her skull, a scream without voice. "You brought me here, gave me name, shape, story. That's all it takes." Kira's lungs burned. She tried to swim, but her limbs wouldn't respond. The lake wasn't just holding her. It was reading her, printing her like ink on flesh. She looked down. The sigil had spread across her whole arm, wrapping around her ribs, her throat. Then she noticed she wasn't alone. Hundreds of others drifted in the dark with her, floating in silence, eyes wide open, all bearing marks on their skin, names, symbols, stories. Some of them were children. Some were people she'd seen online, faces she remembered from profile icons under comments like, "Wow, this video gave me weird dreams. Did anyone else hear that whisper at 3:13? They were trapped too, not in the lake, but in the narrative. "Stories are viruses," Nyrah whispered in her ear, "but the good ones become gods." Suddenly, light pierced the deep. A beam, narrow but blinding, cutting down through the lake like lightning. It was a flashlight, and above, in the blur of moving figures, a voice called down, "Kira!" James, alive. "Hold on, just hold on!" Nyrah's face contorted. The water surged in rage. "No," she hissed. "He was mine." Kira felt the pull shift, the lake beginning to push her upward. No longer a hand dragging her down, but a current trying to expel her. "They're editing me out," Nyrah screamed. "They're cutting the ending." Kira's body rocketed up. Kira coughed and sputtered, lungs on fire. But the air was real, sharp, cold, and full of life. She lay sprawled on the lake's wooden dock, slick with algae and shadow. Above her, a flashlight beam trembled in someone shaking hands. "Kira!" James knelt beside her, face pale, soaked. "But Jesus, you're alive!" She stared up at him, blinking against the stars. His voice sounded distant, echoey, like she hadn't heard it in years. "You were supposed to be gone," she whispered. James shook his head, his voice cracking. "I saw the upload. I kept watching the frames, frame by frame, that face, that thing, and then something whispered my name last night." He pulled something from his bag, a hard drive, her old one, the backup. "I came back. I thought, if this thing started here,
Maybe I could end it here. Kira sat up, wincing. The lake behind them rippled with unnatural calm. James continued fast now. I used a program to isolate the file metadata on your first video. There was something embedded in the audio, Kira. Subharmonic frequencies, patterns layered below human hearing. It's not a ghost. It's not even just a memory. He held up a portable audio recorder. It's a signal. You didn't film Nyrah. You wrote her into being, and we've been broadcasting her ever since. Kira's breath caught. Then we stopped broadcasting. But as she spoke, her arm throbbed. She looked down. The ink was still there, spreading. "She's still in me," she whispered. "She's using me like an antenna." From the lake, a sound rose. Laughter. Not playful, not cruel, triumphant. And then a voice. Nyrah's, distorted with static. "You're not ending anything. You're giving me resolution." The dock groaned beneath them. Dark hands reached from beneath the water, grabbing the edges. "She's coming out," James said, backing away. Kira stood, eyes wide. "Then let's rewrite her," the lake hissed. The boards beneath their feet began to warp and twist, the wood bleeding black like veins. James dropped the flashlight. It fizzled and died. Now only the faint glow from the recorder screen lit their faces. "How do we rewrite something that doesn't want to end?" he whispered. Kira stared at the rippling surface, where Nyrah's shape slowly rose, water clinging to her like a second skin. Her eyes glowed faintly now, illuminated by the thousands of stories she'd infected. "We don't delete her," Kira said. "We finish her arc." She grabbed the notebook. Miraculously, it was still with her, soaked but intact. When she opened it, the ink bled like open wounds. Yet the final pages remained blank, waiting. "I gave her breath by writing," she murmured. "Maybe I can bury her the same way." Nyrah took her first step onto the dock. The planks splintered, groaning under her weight. "No more endings," the thing said. "Only sequels." Kira slammed the notebook on the dock and began to write, fast, carving words with a shard of broken flashlight lens. The creature, born of sorrow and silence, walked into the world through voice and story. But it forgot. Stories need meaning. Stories need endings. Even gods fade when no one listens. Nyrah paused. A flicker of hesitation. "What are you doing?" Kira kept writing. She had been given life through ink, but ink runs dry. Her name, once powerful, became forgotten. Her voice, once loud, now whispered to no one. Nyrah's face contorted. "Stop. You don't get to unmake me." "I'm not unmaking you," Kira hissed. "I'm closing the book." The lake began to boil. Nyrah screamed, not a sound, but a signal, a blast of pressure that made James fall to his knees and clutch his head. Kira held firm. She spoke the final line aloud, voice cracking. And as the last word was written, the lake exhaled and remembered silence. The notebook's ink caught fire, glowing gold, not red, and the flames consumed the pages in a heartbeat. Nyrah froze mid-step. Her reflection, all of them,
shattered, and then she began to dissolve. Not like something dying, like something being forgotten. Nyrah let out one final gasp. Not a scream, not a roar. It was the sound of a breath being held for too long and finally let go. Her body crumbled in pieces of black mist, each fleck swirling upward, caught on invisible currents. As they rose into the sky, they dimmed like dying embers, vanishing one by one. There was no thunder, no chaos, only quiet. The lake calmed instantly, as if it too had released something ancient from its depths. The water became smooth glass, no ripples, no voice beneath, no reflection. Kira fell to her knees, clutching the now scorched notebook. Her fingers trembled, but the mark on her arm, the spiraling sigil, had faded to a faint scar. No ink, no burn, just a memory. James crawled to her side. "Is it over?" Kira looked out across the still water. "Not over, just ended." He nodded slowly. "That thing was in everything. The clips, the comments, my dreams. It was like a feedback loop. Because people kept listening," Kira whispered. "Kept sharing her story." James's face darkened. "How many did she reach?" They sat in silence. The moon rose higher. The old dock creaked beneath them, tired but still holding. Eventually, James helped her up. "What now?" Kira glanced down at the charred notebook. "Now we tell the truth." He raised an eyebrow. "The real story?" "No," she said, eyes narrowed. "A warning." They made their way back through the trees, their path lit only by moonlight and the memory of something ancient now sleeping. But as they reached the trailhead, Kira's phone buzzed. A notification. "New comment on your video. I heard something whisper my name." She stared at the screen, fingers frozen. Then slowly she typed her reply. "Turn it off. Don't replay. Don't share. Stories are seeds. Stop watering this one." And as the night wind moved through the trees behind them, somewhere faintly, a laugh echoed, barely heard, almost a trick of the air. But Kira didn't look back.